Hey, yo, peace world. What's going on? This brother Rob. I know I've been off for a couple of weeks, and that's because uh, due to the school year starting, I've been really busy. So haven't been able to get online like how I want to, but I'm here today, and I'm about to present some information regarding how Chicago got so fucked up, you know? And let me just start off by saying that I know that a lot of people might look at Chicago and say, "Oh, look at the murders, look at all of the degradation, look at all of the terrible things about Chicago." Let me start off by saying that I love my city. I love my city, and I'm looking to build as much as I can because see my sons, with them coming behind me, what I want to make sure, that I do is
I can because see my son,
try my best
with
to build the world. Peace, brother Doug. I want to build the world that where they'll be able to thrive, where they'll be able to be successful, and I'm doing everything and all that I can to try to help our young people. And so while I'm waiting for a couple more people, I doubt if a lot of people gonna come over to listen to this today. Hey, what's going on, Teresa? How are you? How are you, sister? Um, Wanted to tell y'all about what happened today at work, right? So and it goes right in line with what I'm gonna be talking about tonight. And our U.S. history teacher today, you know, she's Caucasian, she's a European, and she teach U.S. history. She called off today, and her emergency lesson plan was to have our students watch Pocahontas and watch the movie and try to find some Eurocentric viewpoints that weren't historically accurate. So when I go into the room, I'm going into the room really to talk to some other young ladies. And I look up at the board and I see them watching Pocahontas. Man, I couldn't even help it. I said, man, what the hell going on up in here? Because I'm thinking they up in there watching oh, they up in there watching cartoons while the teacher is gone, not understanding that that was the lesson plan. I didn't find out that that was the lesson plan until later on in the day, when we was in another meeting. We be having meetings about having meetings, and I challenged the assistant principal and the principal. Please tell me how we're gonna teach our kids about history, and they sitting here watching a fallacy. Because I know the true history of Pocahontas. I know that that man that took her away from her family was a pedophile. And so for our kids to sit there and ingest that stuff, right? It made me upset, you know. And so our assistant principal, he's African American, and then our principal, of course, she's Caucasian and everything, and God bless all of their hearts. I mean, they professionals, but nobody seemed to be upset about it but me. And I was outdone. Like how? I got a whole PowerPoint on Christopher Columbus, and I could have taught them kids something meaningful today. Peace, brother Zeus. Man, good to see you, good brother. And I'm glad for everybody falling through. But my presentation, the core presentation, is on how Chicago got so fucked up, and how did we get here, right? So of course, because I'm a student of history, I wouldn't say that I'm I'm a history buff and all of this kind of thing. But what I try my best to do is study history so that I can understand what happened to our people and how we ended up in the position that we in. You know, whether that be Chicago or any other in any other city. And so, you know, I've been doing some research. You know, of course, I was already familiar, but before I get on YouTube and get to running my mouth and everything, I was just trying to make this bill as comprehensive as possible. Peace, brother John Doe. Good to see you, good brother. And so, what I did was just did the knowledge for the 20th century, and of course, we in the 21st century. So, I mean, you know, people are very familiar with what's going on in Chicago now. But let me just say out loud, right, that during the 90s, routinely, routinely, we would have 800 murders and nobody said anything about anything. It wasn't no outrage. It wasn't none of that. And I'll be honest with you, at the time, I was gang banging, and it didn't strike me as odd either, you know, that these people were getting murdered because I was right out there with them, you know, and that was just the way of life. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I'm very proud of the block that I'm from. I'm from Ill Street. You know what I'm saying? Peace, my good brother DS1. And Ill Street, you know what I'm saying? That's how we effectively and affectionately refer to our block. Ill Street is really called Sealy. It's right off of 79th, right off of Damon. And that's the area that I grew up in. I grew up, and you know, everybody then probably heard of this. It's called Killer Ward. Now look, right, Killer Ward wasn't always Killer Ward. It used to be called Gville, you know, and Gville, it ain't had nothing but a bunch of gangster disciples down there, GDs, and they outnumbered us about 5 to 1, you know, maybe 7 to 1. We never knew exactly thing that them brothers did have more than us was them guns. And I used to say to myself, damn, how the folks got all these damn guns? Where the hell is they get these guns from? This is when Tech Nines first came out. And the only reason, peace, good brother Joseph Coleman, the only reason I'm able to do this live stream tonight is because Tech Nines are known to jam. So that's the only reason I'm sitting here tonight on this platform with y'all, because Tech Nines jam. Now that's all I can really say in terms of my experience out there on the block. But you know, I got my notes, and so that uh, now that I got a few people in the chat room, you know, I wanted to go along with my notes tonight, and I prepared a PowerPoint and everything, but it don't go along. This PowerPoint, it really don't go along with with uh, my my presentation. These notes, they don't really go along. It's just a bunch of pictures of Chicago, and I just figured, like, you know, if I was gonna be talking to myself tonight, I appreciate everybody coming through. Peace out to the chat. Um, um, you know, I just figured I was gonna be talking to myself. So I appreciate y'all coming through, and I want to go ahead and get into it. Right. So Chicago, strategically located in the center of the United States, if we talking about logistics, right? But what brought black people to Chicago was all of the manufacturing jobs that were available during and after World War One. That brought the first migration. And those people moved into Chicago, a small little area, and it was called Bronzeville. Bronzeville. So when you come into the city of Chicago, and you here and you just want to visit, don't just look at downtown. What you want to do is you want to come on 47th Street And on 47th Street, that is where all of our shops are located. That is where all of your black business is going to be. And historically, I can show you pictorials of how black people, when they first moved up here to Chicago, moved into Bronzeville, they was self-contained. No alderman wanted black folks in and around the neighborhoods where their constituents lived. Who were their constituents? Who were their constituents? Their constituents were white folks, normally of Jewish, Polish, and Italian backgrounds, more Polish than Italians here in Chicago, right? So what happened was, in 1919, it's called the Red Summer of 1919 for people who study history. I know some of us say, hey, let's not study history. That happened a long time ago. It doesn't have anything to do with today. Me, I just kind of shake my head at people that believe these types of things. And the reason why is because, the Red Summer of 1919 is what shaped Chicago in terms of segregation so that it wouldn't happen again. This is how the Red Summer of 1919 in Chicago kicked off. It was a young man that was out at Lake Michigan. He floated into that imaginary line, that imaginary area that they considered the white folks area. This young man couldn't swim that well. The white people in that area started throwing rocks and boulders at him and busted or broke up this little craft that he was on, and the young man ended up drowning. The black people that were there on the beach, right, wasn't no kumbaya ass men. They confronted them dudes about throwing them rocks at that young man, right? Them dudes, the white dudes that they confronted, one of them happened to be earshot of the police. The police would not arrest anybody and thought that it was saying that it was an accident. It was an accident. When clearly everybody seen these white guys throwing them rocks at this young man. He ended up drowning. A melee kicks off on 31st Street Beach. That fight bled into the city. Why was white folks so mad? The black folks that came up here was busting up those unions. Those unions were the only way to get a job here in Chicago. If you didn't work for the union, right, you couldn't get a job. And it's still like that to this day. It's still like that to this day. Peace, Pat Coleman, right? So the black people moving up here, they from Mississippi, they from Alabama, they from Arkansas, they from Texas, they from the South, right? They don't know anything about this union. They just was trying to make some money to feed their families, right? Boom. So as the story go, they ended up destroying the black part of town, and this forced black folks to move once again. Then 10 years later, the stock market crashed, right? So this slowed down the migration, right? But during the 40s and 50s, and this is when my parents came up here during the 60s, right? That was the second migration. And during the second migration, because they had already segregated the city, most of the aldermen said that they wasn't willing to allow those black folks to move up here, but they moved up here anyway in hopes of just beating the South, getting out of the South, that oppressive system in the South. Nobody wanted to be sharecroppers. Please understand, my father was a sharecropper. So what that means is that I'm literally one generation out of the field. My mother would have been a sharecropper, But my grandfather on my mother's side decided to buy his own land and told them white folks down there in Greenwood, Mississippi, that's where my family from, two small towns. One, my daddy is from Chula, and my mother is from Kruger, Mississippi. It's right outside of Egypt, Mississippi, a very famous plantation. I'll let y'all do the knowledge on that. They left that area and came up here to Chicago for a better life. My father had a very tough time trying to get a job. He was certified as a mechanic. Um, the man worked well with his hands. He had what we refer to affectionately as that country boy ingenuity. You know what I'm saying? That country boy ingenuity. And the man, he ain't never been a plumber, but you better believe we didn't call a plumber if our pipes got broke at the crib. Me, him, and my little brother, we would all fix them pipes. When the gutters went down, if you go and see my mom and them crib, those gutters that's on their crib, we put them up there. We put them up there. So what am I telling you? What I'm telling you is them country boys came up here and they knew, them white folks here in Chicago knew that them country boys was going to outwork them. So that's why they formed those unions. How do you get into a union here in Chicago? How do you get into a unit here in Chicago? Right? What you would need to do, you would need somebody from the union to refer you to get into the union. That's the only way that you could get in, right? Did any of my father, did he have, or your fathers, people from Chicago, did they have some white boys that was in the union that was willing to allow them to get into the union? Hell no, right? And then on top of that, right, with white flight, right? Let's think about this for a second. Let's say, for instance, they can find a menial job, doing labor, pushing brooms, mopping, changing tires, cutting hair, you know, small jobs that, a black man could get here in Chicago at the time, right? Pardon us, right? If they was working for those unions, I mean, if they was working them little jobs, of course they would take their money and try to buy homes, right? But because they was so dirt poor, nobody could buy a home at the time. So they was trying to put their money together, living in little tenements, right? At the same time, Richard J. Daley. Everybody, if you're not familiar with Richard J. Daley, he is the guy here in Chicago that created what is known as a political machine. All of the aldermen here in Chicago, they basically listen to whatever Mayor Richard J. Daley had to say, and if you didn't listen, he would get you voted out. Okay. Um, 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 Richard J. Daley, along with a couple of other mayors that had an influx of black people coming from the South, met with a gentleman by the name of B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner told Mayor Daley, he's a very famous social scientist from Harvard, told Mayor Daley that these project builders, if you build these project builders, they are going to destroy these people socially, mentally, spiritually. It's going to break them down because they stacked on top of each other. And on top of that, the politics of Chicago cannot absorb these many people this fast. What you got to do is you got to create this, create that. Richard J. Daley, as you can clearly see from Chicago history, built those projects anyway. And they were all on the west and south side of Chicago. And the schools that were around those projects, right? Those schools that were around those projects, they underfunded them on purpose. They underfunded those schools on purpose. So what did that do? That created a whole generation of young people here in Chicago that were uneducated or undereducated. This is very important. So look, I wanna make sure that I'm breaking this down. I'm just giving it to you in bits and pieces. In bits and pieces so that it can be digestible. When we walk away from this live stream tonight, I want everybody to be clear, right? That black folks did not create these problems. What created these problems, right, literally were the people that were in power here in Chicago at the time, right? So, boom, I'm about to fast forward a little bit, and I know that I'm jumping around, but I guarantee you, I'm gonna tie this all together. 1968, Martin Luther King is killed, and of course, in the city of Chicago, right, black folks, they were upset. So this is what I want to show you first. I want to show you Mayor Richard J. Daley, his response to black folks who want to riot after after Martin Luther King is killed. Right? I want to show y'all real quick. So y'all excuse me real quick. Let me get to this screen. All right. So this is Richard J. Daley, and these are his words explicitly, 1968.
Shoot to kill any arsonist or anyone with a Molotov cocktail in their hand in Chicago to fire a building because they're potential murderers.
Everybody heard that, right? The man said, shoot to kill. And that's exactly what the police did. What am I trying to explain to you? That it came from the mayor and that the city of Chicago, at the time, for people who don't know, Dr. Martin Luther King, he came to Chicago and he was protesting those tenements that I was just telling you about that B.F. Skinner told Mayor J. Daley not to build, right? Which brings me to the next point. When Martin Luther King came here to Chicago, it was a bunch of black people that said, hey, please, please go back. Please go back where you came from. Please go back where you came from. It was some people that didn't support him, right? Pastor Brazier, his name is Arthur Brazier. He supported him. Dr. Clay Evans, he's also a pastor here in Chicago. He supported him, right? But the rest of the pastors here in Chicago, they say, "Oh no, you're not coming into my church." Bringing them people down here, you know, to firebomb my church. Clay Evans had to wait 7 years to build his church because Richard J. Daley, Mayor Daley, right, stopped his finances, told the bank, don't give him the money. Don't give him the money. So Richard Daley, his racist attitude towards blacks helped to create what's known as redlining. What is redlining, Brother Rob? What is that? They concentrate you in one area of the city and then devalue the property that you move into. And so when the property values are devalued, right? What does that do for business? Business ain't about to come to an area that they don't think that people would be able to buy their products. So what does that do for jobs? That creates a vacuum, joblessness. His name right now, the city comptroller, his name is Jerry Berrios. And Jerry Berrios right now won't be ever investigated, but it is widely known that he devalues black properties, and they're the exact same homes I'm talking about look exactly like the same home, same square footage, front door, back door. They got a basement, they got an upstairs, kitchen updated. In a white area here in Chicago, that house is going to be worth at least $80,000 more than a house, and it's the exact same house in a black neighborhood. Now that ain't Brother Rob being racist. That ain't me playing the race card. That's what it is. And that $80,000 is supposed to go to our kids. It's supposed to go to our kids. So political corruption. It started before Richard J. Daley. That's why they call it the Windy City, not because it's more windy than any other city. They call it the Windy City because of all of that hot air coming out of our politicians. All right, so for people who didn't know that, I'm just trying to break it down, right? And I'm trying to make you understand how Chicago got so fucked up. So in the 70s, right? In the 70s, his name was Paul Simon. And for people who study political science, he the dude with the big ears and wore a bow tie and some glasses. He was the senator from Illinois for a number of years, pointed out the political corruption, right? And so towards the end of the 70s, the 70s, heroin was being sold in Chicago, but not as at a high clip like New York or any other major city. Cocaine was the drug of choice here in Chicago that the mafia decided to sell here in Chicago. Heroin just never really took. I'm not saying that we don't have we didn't have heroin addicts, but what I'm saying is that the percentage was not as high. Going back to Paul Simon. Paul Simon pointed out all of this political corruption in Chicago, and then a bunch of politicians here in Chicago either resigned or went to jail toward the end of the 70s, which brought about the next mayor. Her name was Mayor Jane Byrne. Now, Jane Byrne, she did try to do a good job, and she did pay off the bills, right? She did pay off the bills, right? But she moved into the projects, right, to try to show that it was a livable space. She stayed there for a month. I'm pretty sure that, some of them creepy crawly things, crawled through them projects. And she was highly protected. You know what I'm saying? The projects, according to people who lived there, I didn't live in the projects like I told you. I grew up on 79th, right? But the people that lived in the projects will tell you that that was probably the most peaceful time ever in the projects when Mayor Jane Byrne was staying there. And what they did, they closed off one half of the building, to make sure that she could be protected. And when she moved out, what the brothers did was they locked themselves into the building if the police. So by one side being welded shut and the other side, them being able to lock, whenever the police, whenever 37 showed up, the blue and white showed up, guess what they did, fam? They just locked the doors on them and they couldn't get in. And so by the time the police show up, they already locked up and they didn't move to work and boom. You know what I'm saying? That this is just the truth, okay? The projects created about the same amount of millionaires as the Chicago Board of Trade. Let's just be real and honest about it. At a very high clip. And so now moving into the 80s, at a very high clip when crack came, those projects created a lot of millionaires. A lot. I don't want to say that only one or two people. No, 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 no. Not one or two people. The GDs ran a bunch of those buildings and they made a bunch of millionaires, right? Which brings me, and I know that I'm skipping over a bunch of stuff. The death of Fred Hampton. I got to make sure that I mention it. The death of Fred Hampton. For people who don't know, right? It was a FBI agent that infiltrated the Black Panther Party here in Chicago and told the police exactly how his bedroom was and all of that. And the police showed up that morning and murdered that brother in his bedroom, laying next to his wife. Please understand that. And that brother didn't commit any crimes or anything. His wife was pregnant with Fred Hampton Jr. at the time, and they murdered him and Mark Clark. But boom, moving into the 80s, just had to make sure that I mentioned Fred Hampton because Chairman Fred is a hero of mine in terms of his ability to organize our people, and that's why this brother was murdered. He was organizing our people here in Chicago, and he was an electrifying figure. And so I'm sure that J. Edgar Hoover had it out for that brother once he heard about Fred Hampton, right? But the 80s, right? When I was a youngin', right? I can remember being able to hang out all times of night. All I had to do was just make sure that I show up at the crib before them street lights come on, right? And as long as I checked in, I could go back outside and all of us would be out there on the block till like 11, 12 o'clock at night. But when crack came, fam, crack was like a social nuclear bomb for Chicago, right? Because we already had gangs here in Chicago, and I'm gonna have to back up a little bit to fully explain because we didn't have a gang problem. Please understand that Chicago didn't have a gang problem. Were formed. The gangs were formed due to 1968. Richard J. Daley telling the police to shoot to kill. And and the brothers here in Chicago wasn't having it. They was not about to let those police come into our neighborhoods and just beat up on people and do people any old kind of way. So this is how those street gangs formed here in Chicago, right? But getting back to the crack era. The crack era alone, the crack era alone, and I should do a whole bill on the crack era. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a whole bill on the crack era. The crack era here in Chicago, right? Lowered our morals and values toward each other. That's what the crack era did. It lowered our morals and values toward each other. Let me paint a picture for you. Let's say, for instance, you a young man here in Chicago and you sell crack, right? Your customers, 50 years old, 40 years old, 30 years old. After you done sold crack to 40-year-old, 30-year-old people, and you got them doing strange things, to get that crack if they ain't got the money, will that create a sense of disrespect for your elders? Yeah. Of course you're not going to have respect for your elders because you're selling them crack and you see what it do to them. You see that? Let's say, for instance, let me paint another picture for you. Let's say, for instance, you a young man. You live here in Chicago. You make $1,000 a day. My daddy go to work and he get paid every 2 weeks $1,000. Will that create a sense of disrespect for your elders, being that you can buy the house next door to them in cash? You're driving a better and a newer car than my dad that's been working for 20 years. Will this create a sense of disrespect for our elders? Of course it will. Of course it will. And all of us seen it on the news. We seen it. We seen it when Ronald Reagan got on the news and saying crack is whack. And I mean, not crack is whack, but this is how your brain is affected by using drugs. We seen those commercials. I remember him saying, like, yeah, they mix it up in a jar and they heat it and then they let it cool and they cut it into these little pieces of, it looks like rock. You see, I remember Ronald Reagan doing that. I remember that. He basically gave the formula for crack on 60 fucking minutes. Right? And then boom, we already got gangs. Right? So think about it. Your gang got crack, my gang got crack. What are we warring of? What are we warring for? Those customers and those corners. And then how are we warring? At first we was fighting, fam. I'm gonna tell you right now, I was a fighting fool, fam. I goddamn it, I fought every day. I fought every day. Every day from the time I was 12 to about 17. I fought I can't remember a day. And I'm not lying to you. I can't remember a day when I wasn't fighting. We fought every day. Every fucking day. You know what I'm saying? And it was over those corners and them customers. So I want to make sure that the impact of the crack era, it cannot be overlooked. It cannot be overlooked. It cannot be overlooked. Look, it was an usher at my church. Now, he was an alcoholic, you know, but then you could tell that he switched from alcohol to crack. And I remember how sorry he used to look at church, stumbling and fumbling with his words and barely could stay woke, even before the pastor started preaching. I remember that. I remember that. And that right there is the reason why most kids here in Chicago don't have a lot of respect for our elders, you know? Which brings me to my next point. The welfare state and everything that go along with it. Okay? Now, let's think about the bill as it existed, right? If the father is in the home, the family is cut off. Let's think about that for a second. Why in the fuck would they put a statute like that in the bill? Now, I kind of know. I kind of know. I mean, I got my opinions and everything, you know, and it's an opinion, you know. I don't have any, you know, undeniable truth, but I want to make sure that I say out loud to you that I believe that is systematic racism and that destroyed black families. The father was not allowed to be in the home and he don't get a job to go to because of unions, right? And just overall the nepotism here in Chicago. Because if you don't know somebody in City Hall here in Chicago, oh, you're probably not going to get a job. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is, fam. That's just what it is, right? And so, which brings me to the next point. They tore down those projects starting in 1995. Now, those projects that they tore down, like I told you earlier, most of those projects was full of GDs. Was it a couple of gangster disciples I'm talking about? Was it a couple of Vice Lord buildings? Yes, it was a couple of Vice Lord buildings. Was it a couple of Blackstone buildings? Yes, it was a couple of Blackstone buildings. But for the most part, most of the buildings on the south side of Chicago, I'm talking about Stateway, Robert Taylor's, the Ickeys, right? All of them was GD. Now, when you tear those projects down, and then you go ahead and you start putting those GDs in areas of the city where they probably wasn't welcome or around other GDs, guess what happens, fam? You GD from the projects. That mean that you coming over there to cause shit, fam. That's what you coming over there to do. They got into it with the vice lords, the GDs, the foes, the BDs, and then they own GDs, which created more violence. Not to mention, right? In 1995, they locked up 18,000 GDs, fam. All of the heads and the majority of the high-ranking foot soldiers. Locked them all up, Joe. Locked them all up. So what did that do? Now you got roughly about 150,000 young men with no leadership in a gang with connects, right, to crack, heroin, weed, and guns. Brother Rob, will that create violence here in Chicago? Nigga, hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah! You know what I'm saying? Hey, Pat, my bad. The BDs too. The BDs too, they locked up a bunch of the heads of the BDs too. You know what I'm saying? Those BDs that was locked up, and now I'm outing myself, right? Those BDs that was locked up, a lot of them I was friends with. And those was the BDs over there off of 71st and Halsted, because I used to go to that church on Halsted on 71st in between Peoria and Green. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of them dudes that got locked up, the BDs that I'm talking about, that got locked up, they were friends of mine, and they just now coming home. And Doug, man, thanks for the question, brother. Uh, uh, folks, folks is just another name for GDs. You know what I'm saying? You know, so Blackstones, you know, they refer to as peoples or the brothers, right? And so when you're talking about brothers, you're talking about foes, you're talking about vice lords, you're talking about Blackstones, right? And then it's a bunch of factions, you know what I'm saying? And then when you're talking about GDs, you're talking about folks, you know what I'm saying? All is one for GDs, all is well for the brothers, you know what I'm saying? But this led to mass incarceration. And so now you got all these young men, like I said, that's in those gangs. A lot of them ain't never met their father. A lot of them ain't never met Uncle June, but they heard that Uncle June was a high-ranking GD, and who the fuck you think they footsteps they falling in? Who footsteps you think they falling in? Exactly, fam. Exactly, theirs, right? And so now, if we're talking about from 1968, then 1978, 1988, 1998, 2008, right? That is what you call generational poverty. What does generational poverty? What does generational poverty do to a family? It lowers your morals and ethics. Anything you need to do or can do to eat or better yourself, and that means if you got to shit on the next man to do so, you will, right? That's exactly what happened, fam. That's exactly what happened. All right. Look, so uh uh as it exists today, and so now I'm just trying to not make this super long-winded, and I might have to continue to do these bills on here to make sure that everybody understand what happened here in Chicago, right? uh Police brutality and the police murder of our brothers and sisters. If you're not familiar with this sister, Rekia Boyd, I know her brother, and to this day, it still fucks me up thinking about Rekia. This is what happened. An off-duty police officer, right? He thought somebody was trying to steal his piping from his air conditioning unit. You know, the hypes, right? The guys that do crack, for people who don't know, right? Or heroin, right? They steal the copper and then they turn it into the metal people, and then the metal people, they'll turn around and get them a couple of dollars so that they can come and shop with the drug dealers, right? So this off-duty police officer came in, heard somebody fumbling around his air conditioning unit, comes outside and just start fucking shooting. And Rakia was killed. You think this police officer went to jail? Hell no. And to this day, that shit still makes my blood boil. It upsets me, fam. And y'all done heard about Laquan McDonald and how this police officer shot him up 16 times. If you haven't seen the video, please go and watch the video. Not to normalize it, not to desensitize yourself, but what I want you to see is that he shot Laquan so many times that the bullets was going through that young man and bouncing off the ground to where the other police officer had to bag up just so that he wouldn't get hit with the shrapnel. Not only that, the responding officers that showed up to the shooting, right? They took it off of YouTube, right? But it was a Church's Chicken not too far from where this officer, Jason Van Dyke, shot Laquan McDonald up. They went into the Church's Chicken and took the surveillance video to try to cover up this brother murder. Oh, yes. That's exactly what fucking happened. Okay? All right? Because I was following the story. Now, I didn't go down there and start marching all up and down Michigan Avenue. But I respected what the people was doing, telling people that they wasn't going to shop in Michigan Avenue unless we had justice for Laquan McDonald, which forced at the time, her name is Anita Alvarez. She was the state's attorney for Cook County, right, for Chicago, right? And I got something that I want to show you regarding her mentality, right, on how to stop crime here in Chicago. This is the state's attorney, right? But that force, that marching up and down Michigan Avenue and not letting people go and shop, forced Anita Alvarez to charge this officer, Jason Van Dyke, with the murder of Laquan McDonald. And he going to trial over the summer. Every time I knew he had trial, I showed up. But because of the fact that the school year has started for me, I'm not gonna be able to go. And I hope that the people that are in this live stream, if you can't go, and try to encourage somebody else to go so that we can hear these motions and follow the story, because I just have a really sick feeling that Jason Van Dyke somehow is going to get off, because traditionally that has what happened here in Chicago. But political corruption and police brutality, it was found out, while Barack Obama was president. He sent the Department of Justice to do a investigation after Laquan McDonald murder on Chicago brutality, the police brutality here in Chicago. And, the report came back, it was scathing. And it definitely shed a bad light on Chicago police, right? But the state's attorney, this is the person that we hope will fight for justice for the citizens of Chicago. Here, I'm gonna share my screen, and I want you to hear her. She's gonna be talking about DNA evidence, right? It was 4 brothers, I think 4 or 5 brothers, that they put into prison for almost 20 years. And this is what she said about the evidence in the case. So here, let me share my screen with y'all, right? Share my screen with y'all. And here go Anita Alvarez. It's only 3 minutes long, so please pay attention. All right.
Innocent kids to confess to crimes they didn't commit. Attorney Anita Alvarez disagrees. Responding to public pressure, she set up a new unit within her office to re-examine questionable prosecutions. But she defends the actions of the police in these two cases.
We have not uncovered any evidence of any misconduct by the police officers or the state's attorneys that took the statements in these cases.
Believes the confession Terrell Swift gave in the Nina Glover case, despite the fact there was no DNA evidence linking him or the others to the crime. Did you find any of the boys' DNA on the victim?
No, we didn't.
Did you find their DNA in the basement of the house?
No.
How do you explain that the boys would say they raped a woman and there not be any DNA evidence? Doesn't it strike you as odd?
Well, we would love to have DNA on everything and every piece of evidence that we have, and every doesn't necessarily occur.
Last year, the Innocence Project retested the one DNA sample that was recovered inside the victim in a Glover National DNA database, and a match was made to Johnny Douglas, a serial rapist and convicted killer who is now deceased. But the new discovery did not change Anita Alvarez's mind. You find out years later that, in fact, the DNA found inside the victim's body belonged to Johnny Douglas. And Johnny Douglas is a convicted serial rapist and murderer. That doesn't tell you that he most likely is the person who killed this woman?
No, it doesn't.
Prosecutors rejected the DNA evidence and instead came up with an unusual theory to explain it all away. They suggest perhaps after the kids killed her, this man wandered by and committed an act of necrophilia. Necrophilia. A lot of our viewers won't know what that means. Having sex with a dead person.
It's possible. We have seen cases like that, but
Possible?
it is. And we've seen it in other cases.
It's possible that this convicted rapist wandered past an open field and had sex with a 14-year-old girl dead.
Well, there's all kinds of possibilities out there, and what I'm saying is that I don't know what happened.
People don't like to admit they made a mistake.
There are still unanswered questions in both of these cases that I could sit here today and tell you that they're all guilty or they're all innocent.
What would you say to if you could? Was wrongfully incarcerated for 15 years, and you still fight my innocence. Not only mine, but my co-defendants. What else needs to be done? During our interview, Terrell's mother, who was in the room at the time, became emotional. I can hear you crying over there. Why are you still shedding tears?
That was hard to actually have your child taken away from you. And he was innocent, and I knew this from the beginning. But what can I do? I'll be able to get my child, my baby, my firstborn. That was hard, and it still is. We came through it. The grace of God.
So this is not Brother Rob. This is not Brother Rob sitting here trying to indict these people. I'm not. What I'm saying to y'all explicitly, okay, is that this is a system. This is a system. And it's built on our backs. That's what it is. It's a system built on our back. I'm gonna give you something else, right? Check this out, right? And eventually I'm gonna sneak my camera into a traffic court. If you go to Markham Courthouse, you would believe that black folks in the suburbs, they the only ones that speed, they the only ones that run red lights. You know, if you go to traffic court downtown, what you're gonna see, if it's 100 people in the room, 90 of them are gonna be black men. 5 of them gonna be black women, and then the other 5 is gonna be mixed up. You're gonna have an Asian that can't speak English well. You're gonna have a Polish lady that accidentally hits somebody's car. You know what I'm saying? Them other 5 gonna be mixed up. But yes, what I'm saying is that this is a system that's built on our backs. And we, they always talk about how we lazy and we don't want to work and all of this. But we create a lot of jobs, though. Oh, we create a lot of jobs. They're about to put 1,000 more police on the street. They're about to do that. They're about to, then the parole officers, the correctional officers, the judges, the lawyers, if you add all of that up, and all of those salaries, man, there we go right there. That ain't that is not me. That's not me just saying that. You know what I'm saying? What I'm telling you is flat out, right? They have built an entire system on the backs of black folks on the west side, south side, and east side of Chicago. That's exactly what I'm saying explicitly. Which brings me to my next point, right? We had recently, this was about 2 years ago now. His name is Governor Bruce Rauner. Bruce Rauner is playing politics with Chicago and with our kids' future. And the reason why I say that is because for 2.5 years, they recently just passed the budget. For 2.5 years, the state of Illinois was operating without a budget. 2015, we didn't have a budget. 2016, we didn't have a budget. All you got to do is go to Google and look, and what you're going to see is the murders start ticking up right around he get in the office. That's because he cut the funds off for a bunch of programs here in the city of Chicago because he wouldn't pass a budget. By him not passing that budget, what did that do? That closed all, not some of them, that closed all of the mental health clinics here in Chicago, all of them. And then because of the budget shortfall, they closed 50 fucking schools. Let me say that again. They closed 50 fucking schools. Now, most of these is neighborhood schools, okay? Neighborhood schools. Now, if you go to a school in an area where there ain't nothing but vice lords and they close your school, and now you have to go a couple of blocks away from your house to a whole nother school, and you in a school with a whole nother group of kids that might not be vice lord, fam. They might be GD. They might be BD. They might be 2-6. They might be Latin King, right? You don't think that's going to tick up the violence? Of course it did. Of course it did. Of course it did. So now everybody looking at Chicago, oh, 8 people got shot this weekend. 10 people got, hey, per capita, right? And we talking about population wise, right? Per capita, Chicago, we rank about like 25th somewhere. You know what I'm saying? We rank like 25th on the list. You know what I'm saying? Of the most dangerous cities, right? But what I want to make sure everybody understand, this violence didn't come out of nowhere. It's hopelessness. It's hopelessness. That's where this violence come from. It's hopelessness. Hopelessness. Now, I'm about to share my screen again. Wait, let me look at this. But hey, this stuff right here, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. Look, right? With all those Section 8 vouchers and all of this kind of stuff. This is a story that the Tribune just ran the other day. And basically what it says is that more than half, I mean, my fault, almost half, 47% of the people that's living here in Chicago are living above their means. And they taxing us like crazy, fam. They got taxes for every goddamn thing. Taxes for every goddamn thing, fam. I mean, the shit is crazy how much taxes we got here in the city of Chicago. And so I'm about to just give y'all some statistics, because I don't want people to go away saying, well, that's just from your perspective, and no, it's not my perspective. It's not my perspective. Some things is what it is. Now, Chicago, one more time. It is a beautiful city. Beautiful. I love my city. I don't plan on moving no time soon, fam. I'm not going anywhere, right? And the reason why is because our people here in Chicago, we are strategically located. Logistics is the thing that I'm pushing at my school, and advanced manufacturing. That's going to be the next thing. You know what I'm saying? Advanced manufacturing. But Chicago is a beautiful city. Beautiful. And, I'm just showing y'all real quick. This is Navy Pier. If you ever come into Chicago, man, just hit me up. I'm not funny acting. This the real dude. What you talking to? You talking to a real dude. There go a Bain right there. You know what I'm saying? That's in Grant Park downtown. And we got a beautiful city. The skyline is beautiful. This is me. I'm at a rooftop party downtown Chicago. And we fake kicking it a little bit, north side of Chicago. These are the areas right here. I got a couple of students from Edgewater, you know what I'm saying, that go to my school and everything. And you can see the real estate here in the city of Chicago. A lot of it is still being built up. Um, they got all kind of plans. Let me just say out loud, I'm a Cubs fan. I might be from the South Side, but I am a Cubs fan. You have to choose whether you're gonna be a White Sox or a Cubs fan. This is a property that I sold on the North Side when I was a mortgage broker. You know what I'm saying? I sold it to a police officer, him and his family. It's right down the street from a club that I perform at. And I'm also an MC. My stage name is Manifesto. And then now we're about to take a look at the South Side. Start right where Douglas at, and then go all the way to Hegewisch. You know what I'm saying? And clearly you can see that they are not investing in the South Side of Chicago. What they're hoping that people do is things get so bad that everybody decide that they want to move. Hundreds right here. These is 3 properties I'm about to try to develop and get people to move into, get them out of those apartments. Fox Park right here, and this is Bridgeport. You know what I'm saying? I got all kind of stories I could tell you about Bridgeport and how racist these people are. Harold's Chicken. If you ever come to Chicago, some of the best chicken you ever gonna eat in your life, fam. And they got that good old mouth sauce for you, G. You know what I mean? West side of Chicago, in the orange right there. And I used to work in the West Town area, Sacramento and Ohio. Shout out to my West Side people. This is typically a block that you would see on the West Side. I think this is Fulton. This is either Fulton or Maypole. I can't remember where I took the photo. But annual revenue, Chicago gonna bring in 3.5 million. Really see that our expenditures are about 7.3. This the number of local government. So how many people are working for the government here in Chicago? 6,963. I was just telling y'all about the property taxes. We second highest in the nation in property taxes. So you'll be paying roughly about $5,700 if you got a home that's worth $300,000. Chicago sales tax starting 2016 jumped to 10.8%. 2.5. That's higher than Seattle. You know what I'm saying? We got a 9% amusement tax. You know what I'm saying? Personal property lease transaction tax. You know, Illinois is ranked 45th in promoting policies that people would benefit from. But let me slow down real quick. Let me backspace real quick. 5th, Harold Washington had a bunch of initiatives that he was trying to do here in the city of Chicago. And so the money that's generated, that money was supposed to pay for the program. Clearly, you can see where the money is being spent. It's not on the far south side, not on the southwest side, not on the south side. The lion's share of the money is spent on the north side where shit is already nice at. Shit is already nice there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not making it up. This is literally what's happening, right? Average spending per student. They spent about $14,000 per student on the north side. Recently, they just passed the bill to make it a little more fair. Let me go back. Make it a little more fair. They spent $14,000 per student. In some schools, they spent upwards of $24,000 per student, right? You know, CPS. I am no fan of CPS at all. You know what I'm saying? But on average, in the United States, they spend about $10,000 per student. So with them spending the extra $4,000, you would think our kids is getting a quality education, huh? Not so much, fam. Let's take a look. Only 28% of fourth graders and 20% of eighth graders students are proficient in science. Only 2% of fourth graders and 7% of eighth graders are proficient when they graduate eighth grade. Only 12% of fourth graders and 23% of eighth graders are proficient in terms of writing, reading. Reading, not, obviously is fundamental, right? Only 20% of fourth graders are proficient, and only 21%, it went up 1%, are proficient when they get to eighth grade. So nationally, right, in the United States, 86% of everybody in the United States can read proficiently. In Chicago, only 53% of the residents here in Chicago, right, read proficiently. So what does that mean? Even if you were to give them a job, they can't go in there and fill out the job application because they can't read. And we going on 50 years now. This has got to be the saddest statistic, according to CPS. Only 6 out of 100 high school graduates will earn a bachelor's degree by the age of 26. Now that's projected, so that's where, Brother Rob come in at, right? And I'm not pinning no roses on myself, right, by doing this. This is just what needs to be done. I was talking to a young man today. He said, Mr. Williams, I had never thought about going to college. Man, I just was going to get a job, I said, well, man, bro, where you going to work at, bro? You know what I'm saying? Oh, man, this factory, Nestle, they got a factory on the south side. He was talking about going to work there, and he was going to retire from there. I said, well, man, what about owning the trucking company that Nestle deliver their goods through? What about them? What about that? What about trying to be that guy? Right? What I'm saying is that the hopelessness is so strong, fam, that our kids they can't even dream, fam. They can't even dream. Hey, get the fuck out of here with that shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Trying to do business and man, I ain't with all of that shit, man. I'm just trying to keep my head above water and not get shot. Literally, that's what that young man told me. Last year, he took the SAT. Let's just say, because Y'all, you know, for people that might that know me and might can figure out who I'm talking about. Let's just say, and because I don't want to say what his score is, I know what his score is. Let's just say that this young man scored above 1,600. Okay, he scored above 1,600, meaning that he could go to any school in the state of Illinois that he wanted to, go and work at a factory, because it never occurred to him that he could business owner and create some jobs for our people. So those are the pictures that I paint in our kids' mind. Forced participation rate versus unemployment rate. So the unemployment rate, right? The unemployment rate, we got to go back and look at this. The unemployment rate for Black folks here in Chicago, in these statistics from 2015, was 20%, Hispanics 13%, white 8%, Asian 5%. So basically we, you know, pretty much tripled up Asians, doubled whites, and 7% higher than Hispanics. And a lot of people gave up trying to look for a job, so they not even counted. So that number obviously is higher, being that only 53% of our people are working. Man, Rob, you can't just focus on Black people. Why not? They need the most fucking help. So why not? You can't tell me to not focus on our people, and our people need the most help. You can't, well, my fault. Let me take that back. You can tell me that, but I won't be listening to your coon ass. I'm not going to be listening to you, because I'm going to be working for the betterment of our people until I don't have no more breath. That's what I'm going to be doing, fam. We are the fifth segregated city, United States of America. And remember when I told y'all, right? You know, union, unless somebody from the union support you, Illinois lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Lose those jobs, tax businesses. The demographics here in Chicago by the years. Okay, and so you know, just to break it down for you, right? 1920, right? Right there, 60% Black. That's the Bronzeville area I was telling you about. 1930, now it's 90%, right? 1940, you can see we starting to fill in a little bit. All of that dark blue, that's all white folks, right? This though, 1950, this is when they start creating suburbs here and around Chicago. Okay, this is when they start creating those suburbs. 1960, this is the start of the second migration. You can see we starting to fill in, right? 1970, you can see now we on the west side deep, 90%. You see that? 1980, now white folks is pretty much gone now. They pretty much gone now, right? 1980, pretty much gone. Here go 1990 now. They definitely gone. That little red area right there, though, you see that? Right there in the middle of the map. That little red area. You see that? That's Chinatown. Remember I showed y'all Harold's Chicken? Go to Chinatown here in Chicago, the Harold's Chicken. You're not gonna find it, fam. You're not gonna find it in Chinatown. I guarantee you will find a Chinese food store in them yellow areas. Oh, you're gonna find and this is 2000. We don't have to break it down demographically for 2010. But yeah, to go to murder rate, Detroit, they winning. Chicago, we distant second. You know what I'm saying? The US average is about 11 points lower. There go our good brother, you know what I'm saying, Mayor Hill, Washington. You know what I mean? That's around 1970s right there. Urban League. I want to make sure that I give a shout out to the Urban League. If you got a business idea, Urban League, they help you write your business plan. Right? The Chicago Regal Theater, right? He bought it a couple of years ago, and he's just looking for more investors so that it can reopen the street, right? During the 1930s, Bronzeville. Remember, I was telling y'all about it. It was the center of business. Had the best black entertainment, jazz, blues, dancing theater, and it was a central location. So some of those artists right here. That's Art Blakely. Tech right there. Blacks not only moved out of Bronzeville, but they built their own homes because the constructors union wouldn't build their homes. Right? This is a family that lived in Stateway Gardens when it was first built. Fresh from Mississippi, Louisiana, right? 1920s, very famous photo of some brothers Easter Sunday, got on they Sunday best. You know, my fault. I wanted to point out this is A. Philip Randolph. Philip Randolph was the organizer of the Pullman Porters, for people who want to know. And then here go the governor, Larry Hoover. You know what I'm saying? He's the founder of the Gangster Disciples, one of the largest street gangs, not only in the country, but in the world. You know what I'm saying? And the brother, he's a political prisoner, if you ask me. And then here go the brother right here, Jeff Fort. This brother also I feel is a political prisoner. He was set up by the FBI and the CIA. And while he was in prison, he changed his name to Chief Abdallah. Man, I keep doing that. Back up. He changed his name to Chief Abdallah Malik Kabah. We affectionately refer to this brother as Chief Malik. You know, and then here go Chairman Fred right here. So man, I love my city, man. You know, and this is a quote from the brother: "You can kill a revolutionary, but you can never kill the revolution." You know, that brother would be flipping over in his grave if he's seeing all these coons. I know people got all kind of feelings about Reverend Jesse Jackson, but that brother, he sent 8 trucks down there to Florida for that flood and that hurricane. 8 semi trucks, he sent it. You know, so you can call him a coon, but he sent them people help. And then here go the minister, powerful voice, Louis Farrakhan. You know what I'm saying? And so you will wonder why they won't go ahead and fund the growth of Chicago, being that we centrally located. The future of Black people is really in the hands of the courageous, dynamic, and powerful Black youth. And then here go our master teacher, Dr. Jacob Carruthers. For y'all that don't know, Jacob Carruthers was a champion for Black studies. And Northeastern Illinois University, where I'm currently a student at the Carruthers Center, and a participant in a Kemetic Institute. You know, yes, I study Kemetic science. This brother had the school named after him, and you know, he met with the likes of Dr. Ben and met with the likes of John Henry Clark, Professor and Dr. Greg Carr. He comes to visit Northeastern. and speak with the builders there. And I'm very proud to say that I'm a student there, and I've studied under political scientists such as Robert Starks, such as Sunni Ali. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very proud to say that I'm a student there, and I'm gonna be getting my master's in inner city studies very shortly. You know, but for people who are not familiar with Jacob Carruthers, please do the knowledge on our good brother. You know what I'm saying? He was a master teacher and dedicated his life, to Black studies. And this is the former director of inner city studies that got me over there to Northeastern, Conrad Worrell. And, of course, we got Con, you know what I'm saying? But I got these next few pictures to show you, right, the diversity of Chicago. Because Common is not a Kanye West, and Kanye West is not a Chief Keef, and Chief Keef is not a Twista, and Twista is not a Lil Bibby, right? And Lil Bibby is not a Chance the Rapper. Do you see what I mean? What I'm saying is that we have a very diverse city, and so one day you might be talking to somebody that's a gangbanger. The next day, you might be talking to somebody that's a preacher. And the next day, you might be talking to somebody that's a progressive like me, with Harold's Chicken. And then for people who don't know, West Side, they got Uncle Remus. Now, Uncle Remus, woo, shit, that's some good chicken. Go some random photos from Chicago. This is out west, you know what I'm saying? And you can clearly see brothers get it in. This is a black-owned shop that's there. This my block right here, 079 Reb Love, Ill Street, baby. You know what I'm saying? I had to throw us in there, family. You know what I'm saying? And remember, I was telling y'all that those street gangs was formed as in response to police brutality. You can clearly see that they had an office, and them brothers was a political organization. That's why they call the conservative vice lords. And it wasn't because they was Republican. It's because they wanted to be in opposition to Richard J. Daley, who was a Democrat. Chicago is a Democrat city, always will be. You know what I'm saying? In my estimation. But they was just trying to be in opposition to Richard J. Daley. And so that's why they call themselves the conservative vice lords. Man, I wish I had Mercy Ill out there, man, because I'm sure this brother could fill in some gaps that I didn't fill in tonight, right? But our mayor, right? You can see him. He riding the green line, right? And you can see right there goes somebody homeless. There go his chief of staff sitting right next to him. Not sitting right next to him, but standing right next to him. Do you see what these gentlemen are doing? And I use that word loosely. Looking at their phone. They probably got a pocket full of money, could change that brother's life. He's the mayor. He's responsible for his well-being. You think he'd give a good goddamn what's going on with that brother right there? Hell no. And for people to try to tell me I'm crazy, I ain't crazy. I know what the hell going on. These people don't care about us, would prefer to see us move out the city and die. That's what I believe. They go to Art Institute of Chicago, though. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we're a very, very, very diverse city. And it's a bunch of places that you can go and see. And these are the places that I take my kids so that I can open their mind to the real world. Museum of Science and Industry. This was also the place of the World's Fair in 1893. Here go the Chicago Field Museum. And these museums, a lot of people lived in Chicago their whole life, ain't never been to one of these museums. Museum of African American history. Let me tell y'all a quick little story, right? There's a lady, her name is Margaret Burroughs, started the DeSable Museum in her house. Her husband, like, man, hey, we ain't gonna be around here collecting all this junk. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have to get rid of some of this shit. Sister Burroughs did, God rest her soul, she an ancestor now. You know what she did? She divorced that man and then went and found some funding so that she could get the land grant so that this museum can be built. Museum in the United States of America that was dedicated to African American history. So I done just, hopefully I done put a feather in some of y'all hat. Her name was Margaret Burroughs. And this lady was a fiery lady. She went to a Catholic church on the low end. The church is called, and my shorties used to go to the school, it's on the tip of my tongue, St. Elizabeth. She went to St. Elizabeth. She was a parishioner there, right? And quick story. She seen dealing with the guys because at the time I was coaching the 5th and 6th grade at St. Elizabeth. I was doing it volunteer. You know what I'm saying? My shorty, he was in 3rd grade. My oldest son, he was in 3rd grade at the time. So I just figured if I start coaching, I could help him develop. You know what I'm saying? You know, because my shorty was an athlete. You know what I'm saying? All through grammar school, all through high school, and the first 2 years of college. She seen how I had all of the young men sitting there and they wasn't acting no fool and all of that. And she said, young man? I'm like, yes, ma'am. I don't know who she is. She said, young man, I'm sister, and I see what you doing with them young people. She said, are you an educator? I said, educator. I'm a mortgage broker and I work in finance. She said, oh, all right. Well, our people and our children, they need you to become an educator. I say, well, why me, Miss Burroughs? I mean, why you think I'd be a good? She said, because you care. And then she smiled real soft and she walked away. That's what led me to wanting to get out of finance. That's what started it. Because this is not about me. This is about how Chicago got so fucked up. But we need more Margaret Burroughs elders to step up. That's what we need. Middle-aged and you in your 30s, you in your 40s, you live in, we need you to step up. That's what we need you to do. You know what I'm saying? We need you to step up, fam. And this last slide, I'm gonna show the last slide, right? This is and I invited Amani from Six Dynasty Media to Chicago African Fest. Man. Love it, man. Love the African Fest. I go every and I'm proud to say that it is the highlight of my year. Why the African Fest, brother Rob? You know what I'm saying? Stop sharing my screen now. I hung up on me. Africa, why African Fest? Why is that the highlight of your year here in Chicago? Right? It is the one time of the year when everybody that's making the money is our people. They making the money. They making the money. They got all the shops. We the ones that organize it. We the ones that run it. We pretty much run that whole thing that day. You know what I'm saying? We run the whole thing. And then, the parking, all of that. We run the whole thing, by us owning it from end to end. It's around the DeSable Museum because we the organizers, we get all the vending money. The vendors are all African American. It ain't nothing but us making the money. And that to me is true Black power. That was a lot of things. It was Chief Holiday on Truthfully Honest platform was talking about, you know, black power ain't dead. Niggas just scared. I think we just need to redefine black power. It's a brother. It's a brother live a couple of blocks away from me every morning. Every morning. Every morning. He got his two little babies. You know, his son is a little older than his sister. And every morning he walked them to school. And they just be, you know, Peace D Red, and they just be laughing and talking and all of that. To me, that's black power. To me, that's black power. The brother walking his kids to school, those are lifelong memories that his kids are never gonna forget. And what you think his kids are gonna do? What you think his kids gonna do? When they get older, and if the creator blessed them to have some kids, they gonna walk their kids to school, or at least take them to school, right? So solutions. What, you know, because I don't want to just present just how Chicago got fucked up and how we got here, but solutions to the problems. The number one solution is love. Love? Man, get the fuck out. How is love gonna fix this, Brother Rob? If you love your kids enough, what you're gonna do as a parent is go to CPS, go to Chicago Public Schools, and tell them not to strike, because the state of Illinois, as I clearly just showed y'all, we gonna bring in 3.5 billion, and our bills is 7.5 billion. Tell them don't strike if you really love your kids, because you want them to continue to be educated. If they really, really love their kids, they're gonna do what's necessary to make sure that school continue. The next thing, right? Our collective ambivalence toward our problem. All that sleeping that we doing. We gotta wake the fuck up, fam. You gotta understand who is our enemy, and it's not us. We are not the enemy. At the end of the day, we are not our enemy. We gotta find a way to love each other, love on each other, and don't see your brother as your enemy. That's important, fam. Love will fix it. The next thing we got to do, right? We have to organize. I believe that Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, I believe he said it best. He said, if you organize a little bit, you get a little bit done. If you organize a lot, you get a lot done. But if you don't organize at all, you're not going to get nothing done. And so I feel like we definitely need to organize. I'm out here in the South suburbs. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here in the South suburbs, and that's what I'm doing. I'm organizing out here. You know, we putting a lot of pressure on our mayor. You know what I'm saying? So it's 7 wards in the city that I live in, Calumet City. Out of those 7 wards, 4 of them are now ran by black men, you know, and we looking to take over in the next election, take over 2 more wards. And then we gonna get the mayor out of here once we got somebody strong enough, politically enough to connected to unseat her. And then I want to make Calumet City, I want to make it the black Mecca. This is where black folks that want to leave the city don't move to Memphis, fam. Don't move to Atlanta, fam. You know what I'm saying? Move a couple of blocks away from where you at, and let's rebuild Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So that our kids can benefit from our sacrifice. You know, a lot of people always searching for things. You know, I'm through searching. I know exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the people who are willing to do the work. So, boom, in the chat, right? I'm about to put my email here in the chat. If you're willing to do some work here in Chicago, hit me up, fam. Hit me up, because I'm willing to work with you. I don't care if you a Hebrew Israelite. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you're a gangbanger. You know what I'm saying? What I care about is you being willing to do the work. You know what I'm saying? Love is what's gonna fix our problem, fam. Love, you know. And to that, you know, I feel like I've been going quite long here, and I want to make this. I wanted to make this live stream short, but I'm about to continue to do these. How Chicago got fucked up, because I'm sure that some of the problems that affected Chicago affect your city, and so I'm gonna give you some best practices, what you can do to find out how this money is flowing in and out of your city, and how you can get your hands on it. Right? We gonna try to develop some best practices here, and then from there we looking to build. So that being said, man, I done said my piece. I was just trying to break it down. This was really in response to I did a video back in January when black folks was talking about bring the feds here to Chicago. They was talking about bring the feds, and so I got mad, and you know, and I kind of did a rant about you know, how I felt about them saying that they should bring the feds here into Chicago, right? And so anybody that commented, you know, whether it was positive or negative, right? I just want to say to you out loud, on purpose, I didn't respond to it, because I you know, I wanted to just see what people was thinking, right? But here, let me show you something real quick, right? Let me show you something real quick. Just some of the comments, you know, from these people that were they don't know me from a hole in the wall. You know what I'm saying? They don't know me from a hole in the wall. But let me show y'all some of these comments from the video, right? Show y'all some of these comments. This shit blew my mind. You know what I'm saying? Because I was trying to be positive. You know, it blew my mind. You know, so got my brother Terry Hibbler. He said Chicago fire. I appreciate you, brother. Yeah, Doc Jr. So putting feds and armored cars on each corner, waiting to shoot and take down armored felon isn't going to help. This guy's like 35 listening to Tupac. All right. You had a nerve to make a 22-minute video, blah, blah, blah. You know, I think the white dude, you know, he's from Chicago. He say, this guy's correct. It's a combination of factors causing the violence. And the bottom line is that we have to give everyone in this country something to lose. That is what's going to stop crime. Give people something to lose. If they break the law, but if they have nothing, they won't care. Makes perfect sense, right? Covering the basics. This is Shorty from Chicago. He say, dude, you sound like one of these dumb young niggas. You sound fool as hell, nigga. Chicago fucked up. He live in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how much he loves Chicago, but you know, he in Chicago. He said Chicago fucked up. Like somebody else gonna fix it, you know. I'll consider 68. You need someone to do something. Obama didn't do shit. You ain't doing shit. You know, he don't know what I do every day. You know, the only people I see having problems with this is criminals. You see this? Wait, let me see. Let me see. Billy Anderson. It's all self-inflicted and it's your own damn fault. Yeah, yeah. Redlining and them creating unions. Yeah, yeah. They you know, white folks, they don't have nothing to do with this. You know, my channel should be shut down. Chris Owens, I have no clue. Man, Fred Hound, I appreciate you, good brother. Fernando Patino, you dumb. You just marked yourself, fool. When the feds come to arrest all criminals of all races, you're going to be the first one. Yeah. Uh, Michelle Obumu or whatever. What the fuck was that? Age of political correctness was black culture is the problem. She feel like culture is the problem. But, some real visceral shit. Let me see. Look, you stupid motherfucker. The black entertainers, the black sport athletes, black comedians, black music. All you nappy head brainwashed fools combined making over 500 billion yearly. And what the fuck y'all spending that shit on? You know? More drugs, bitches, whores, motherfuckers, blah, blah, blah. Fuck this dude. Uh uh Viper Boss. This dude is an idiot. We are killing each other in record numbers. So for people that say our problem is that we kill each other, brother, brother, I know it's somebody black. Brother, that's not our only problem. That's not our only problem. Okay? Gangs are murdering children and blowing their brains out, and you say nothing. As a matter of fact, that's who I deal with. I deal with gangbangers. That's who I'm working with. Get mad at the gangbangers. I can get mad at them, but is that going to help them? Is that going to help them instead of the government? The government is what created all of this hopelessness. I have already buried a child, and no parent should never see their child killed. You will never understand until it's your loved one or child getting their chest blown out. They closed all the schools because of the damn violence that you and anyone like you refuse to see. And I mean, at the end of the day, they did not close the schools because of violence. They closed the schools because they said that they didn't have enough money to run a school. They still don't got enough money to run the school. You see what I'm saying? They still don't got enough money. Joe Nitis, it's too late. You said the words, it's too late. Something heard you. All right. You can hear the call of evil. It's too late. When the magic comes, you can say it was a game. Please let me go. You see what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is that uh I was really talking to Black Chicago. I really wasn't talking to anybody else. I was talking to Black Chicago. I would encourage anybody, that was listening in the night, feel free to go over, take a listen to the video. Like I said, it was a rant, and I was just trying to break it down a little more comprehensively today, you know. But that's what I got for y'all tonight, and I appreciate everybody uh for coming through and everything. And I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream, you know, unless it was some questions in the chat y'all wanted me to get at, or if not, I understand. What I'm saying, it's all good. But this is definitely a problem that was created over a number of years with bad policy, racist policies, and those policies, they have affected the Black community in, I mean, some of the worst ways. We have to learn to look at each other not as the enemy, but as an ally. And the number one thing that we got to do is start building from square one. We have to build vertical business models. That's a whole nother bill. But basically, a vertical business model means that you own it from the material coming out the ground to delivering it to the factory that you own, to taking that raw material to making it into some type of product. Then you own the truck that deliver it from the manufacturer to the retailer, and we own the retail shop. You know what I'm saying? And we the ones that's coming in and buying it. You know what I'm saying? So that would be the idea of a vertical business model. We have to build vertical business models. We really can't include anybody else until we done took care of our own. That's so important. That's so important. We have to have people that know how to do plumbing, electricity, that know how to stack some bricks, that know how to go out and survey some land and fan gas lines, and know how to put on a roof, know how to put on siding. We need basic stuff. People that know how to cut grass. We need super basic stuff. We got to get our mind out the clouds. We got to put our feet on the ground and let's just start building. You know what I'm saying? Let's start building. I appreciate everybody that showed up tonight. You know what I'm saying? And man, I appreciate anybody that got anything from this bill tonight. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, we got to build, and we got to build together, and we got to learn how to work together. I don't draw no lines in the sand when it comes to our people. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that you could say that would compel me to not want to work with you. You know what I'm saying? We gotta, man, we gotta find a way. We gotta find a way. So that being said, man, I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna keep coming with this topic until I feel like it is thoroughly covered. What I think I'm gonna start doing is breaking it down piece by piece by piece. Peace, Uncle Suge, man. If you just not coming in, bro, hopefully I didn't say something over the course of this live stream uh, that you can listen to and benefit from. Um, but I was just about to close out, man. And man, like I said, I appreciate everybody coming through. So with that being said, God bless y'all. You know what I'm saying? Man, stay prayed up. If you pray, do a do-wah. If you do-wahs, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it is that you do. I just pray everybody's strength. You know what I'm saying? Learn how to love on some black folks. And that being said, man, I'm out, man. But I'm probably gonna come back a little later on this week, you know what I'm saying, just so that I can keep building on this topic, because I don't want people to believe that, it's just a bunch of dirty niggas running around Chicago shooting each other. It didn't happen. It didn't happen that way. It didn't just come to be. You know what I'm saying? It was a process, you know what I'm saying, a 50-year process actually. And I was just trying to break it down from my perspective how it came to be. But I'm about to go ahead and close out. God bless and good night.